Good morning guys, I'm Chris and welcome back to this Sunday's episode of Rift Amps. Excellent progress on the second 57 Tweed. So I've got all the sockets wired up, the pots and inputs all done, the board is in, power transformer's done. All I need to do now is speaker socket, heaters and ground connection, and that's it. And then this one can be tested as well. So good progress on that one. The cabinet for the Blondie has just turned up. I've just finished unboxing it, so I need to get this thing dressed. So I need to drill the chassis mounting holes and the handle as well. Then I can get the, spin it around for you, can get the speaker mounted, chassis in, and then this one is done. Now, in case you missed it, I am going to be offering these, or I am now offering them, I should say, as a permanent part of my lineup. So it's now listed on the online store, calling it the Blondie. It's a 6G6B blonde bassman circuit. But obviously, as you know with these things, there are two channels. And the second channel, the guitar channel, will keep blonde bassman. But on the first channel, I'm giving you three options. You can either have standard bass channel for this circuit, or you can have black plate like this customer is having done on his, or you can do, there are some really cool Marshall mods to turn that into a really crunchy Marshall channel. So that's available all at no extra cost. So the option is there. So that's what is now available if you're interested in getting yourself a 50-watt blonde bassman combo with some really cool voicing options for the bass channel. So the last couple of days, weather has been, it's definitely turned. It's feeling like late summer, early autumn now. But today is the exception. Nice and sunny, a little bit of a breeze. Nothing to complain about. PV6505, a very kind customer subscriber, actually had at home a spare switch, impedance switch for one of these, so I've desoldered the old one. I have fitted the replacement switch, gave it a good clean as well. And do you remember when I wiggled and wiggled the switch before the signal dropped out? Well, here it is, up and running on the bench. We're giving that a good old wiggle, no dropouts. So that's that issue fixed, okay? I also cleaned and retensioned the jack sockets on that board, and the speaker cable is now held in securely. So that's good, so I haven't got to replace those sockets. But we do still need to diagnose why the second channel has no output. This is the green channel. Change to the red channel and we get nothing. So that's the next stage for me to work on. Right, the Blondie is all done and back together. Brand new cabinet, new handle, 1/16 of an inch gap each side, so that's correct, all done. And so we've kept the standard 6G6B second channel, but we've converted the first channel to black plate. So this is from AB763. So whilst I've got it up and running on the bench, I thought we'd just show you a quick comparison of the harmonic profile of each channel. So I'm currently in the blonde channel, and I've got both tone controls at noon and the presence control also at noon. So straight up, and the amplifier hits rated output at 7 on this dial. As you can see there, 20 volts RMS into 8 ohms, 50 watts. Perfect. There it is. And this is our harmonic profile of the blonde channel. And as you can see, we've got here's our fundamental. We've got second harmonic. Third harmonic is more prominent than second. Fourth harmonic, hardly anything going on there. Fifth, about the same as the second and third. The sixth and onwards are, you know, quite low. We go to our black panel channel, bring it back up to rated output, which is there, 20 volts. What do you think? Our 4 harmonic is still very not prominent compared to second, third and fifth. So when the cleans are going on, you can't really see much of a difference. But let's now look at our overdrive. So we're at rated output now. We've got quite a lot of upper harmonic content. So we're not overdriving the amplifier yet. We're just at our cleans. If I switch back over to the blonde channel, back to the black. And back to blonde. Very interesting. Okay, I'm just going to leave that, what am I doing? Burning in for a bit. I need to take some photos of it for the website, because as I said, we're now offering these again. And then the customer can have this one back. But yeah, all done. Good. Remember, you can order this with both blonde channels, like this one, which has got the black channel, or we can do it, this is a Marshall style channel. Up to you. No charge for any changes. You just need to specify it when you order. But yeah, that's the Blondie on the bench. I'm still messing around with the channel comparison here. So I've lowered the output now. So this blonde channel is doing 8.4 volts. And it does that around 5 on the dial. And that's our harmonic content. So you've got your fundamental, hardly any second, very strong third. Not much above that. So we're quite low output here. But if I do the same, remember 8.4 volts. On the black channel, same output. Our second harmonic has come back. Isn't that interesting? Just switch back to blonde. There it is. And black. Absolutely fascinating. You're going to love this one. Back on the PV6505 Plus, and now we've got the impedance, or the output sockets sorted, the impedance switch sorted, we can start to try and diagnose why there's no output from the red channel, but there is from the green. Okay, so signal tracing method. So I'm injecting a signal into the front end. Here's the input. And so far I've got signal all the way through, everywhere where you expect it. Through R22 into V1A. Out of V1A through C6, and this is the point where it splits off. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I've got signal up to pin 2 of this relay. But also we come down, we've got signal here at C17, the other side through the lead pre-volume pot, which is this one here. Okay. Back out the other side, and all the way up until this side of R82. Okay. And we have signal present here. Now what happens is when you switch channels, this relay either dumps this signal to ground, as you can see, pins 3 and 2 are connected to ground, or when the relay switch the other way, it switches off this channel. All right? So that's how it should work. Now, I've put my yellow oscilloscope probe on this side of R82, and I've got my purple probe on the other side of R82, which is a 470k resistor. Okay, because as we can see on the scope, the yellow trace is our signal that's there, and if I adjust the sorry, I've got you in zoomed in there, the pre-control, you can see the signal decreases and increases as I rotate the pot. So we have signal present and it's coming from that pot. Okay, good. But the purple trace is the other side of that resistor. So there is no signal there. There is no signal. And the other side of that resistor connects directly to pin 2 of V1B. And look, there's nothing else there. So why do we have signal here, but not here? Okay. Now, just to show you that the relay is working, when I do the relay change, our signal should disappear to ground. So hit the switch, yellow channel, yeah, should disappear. There it is, gone. Bring it back in. So that side is working. So we're not worried about that. I'm trying to work out why there's no signal the other side of R32. So what could be the reasons for that? Well, the obvious one is that resistor is open. There is no resistor there. There is no connection internally, so the signal isn't getting through. That could be one thing. The other reason is that there is for some reason, at this point, a short to ground. So our signal, once it passes through the resistor, rather than going into the grid of V1B, is being shunted to ground somehow. There's nothing in the schematic that would indicate that, but maybe it's a faulty trace or something going on like that. So if I increase the sensitivity of the purple channel and I rotate the pot, you can see there is actually signal there. It's just very, very weak and noisy. But it is tracking across that resistor. You see? So if I turn it down, purple goes flat, turn it up, purple increases. Now, is that actually happening or is there something else going on? I don't know yet. But we're in the millivolt range there. So if I put them both on the 1 volt range, there's nothing. Okay. So how do we then test it? Well, the easiest thing to do, switch the amplifier off, discharge it, stick a meter either side of that resistor and see it and check its reading. So let's do that. Right, so let's measure across that resistor. Uh, 467,000 ohms are on the million ohm scale. We do it again. Try and keep you focused on that point. There you go, 467. 467,000 ohms. So that's okay. Just measure again. Yep, okay. You'll notice I haven't got the valve in circuit. Let's find the valve. What do I do with it? Here it is. Let's put the valve back in circuit. Okay, valve is now back in. Let's do the same test, same measurement. We're And now it's measuring 101,000 ohms. Have we got a shorted valve internally? I don't understand that, do you? Pull the valve out again, make sure I'm not making any mistakes. Nope, there it is. 468,000. Pop the valve back in. Just over 100,000 ohms. That doesn't make sense to me. That does not make sense. So let's just swap this valve with another one. One that's not in the amp. A completely separate one from my spares. Stick that one in. There you go. There's our signal. Was it simply a bad valve? Let me fire this thing up again and we'll test it. Okay, all hooked up again. Replacement valve in, measuring either side of that 470k resistor, R82. Yellow is on this side, purple is on the grid of the valve. Zoom you in. We now have signal either side of that valve. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating? So all he needs is a replacement 12AX7 here, a new impedance switch, and this amp is up and running again. Okay, just connected up to the output of the amplifier. So our yellow probe is now at the output, and this currently is the red channel, which is now working. Flick back to the green channel. We have output on that channel as well. Red, green, red, green. Let's check on the green channel where we are now, that the crunch and the bright switches work. Here's crunch. Yep. And here's bright. Yep. Back to the red channel. Lots of gain on tap there. Right. So just V1 was dead. I'm going to test it, see if we can work out why that valve isn't working properly. But yeah, that's all this amplifier needed. Isn't that interesting? So we'll give it a soak test. I need to check the bias, make sure we're happy with that. But this amplifier is pretty much done. JCM 900 all done. Cam caps now in place and secure. All serviced, all up and running. Both channels going. We're currently on the red channel. Switch to green. Got output there too. Bias is set exactly where I want it. Lots of gain on tap. It's a nice amp. Really cool. So just going to give it another half an hour soak test. Then I can wang it back in its cabinet, and the customer can have both the PV and the Marshall back. A nice little surprise this morning. So a bit of backstory. As you know, Celestion have decided to bring all of their speaker manufacturing, at least for guitar that I know, back in-house in the UK. So there's no longer going to be anything made abroad. So it's all UK-made stuff now, which I think is brilliant. And they've been coming out with some really nice stuff lately. Now, the UK and European sales manager has been pestering me for a good number of years now to switch to Celestion. Because they've been trying to get more, the boutique brands back on board and all that kind of thing, which is great and fine. And I have started using some Celestion models in my amplifiers. not because they're Celestion, but because that particular model I think sounds better than, or better in that application than other stuff, right? So you always go by what you think sounds best and what works for the application, rather than just because you want to use a brand or a name or whatever. But slowly but surely, Celestion have started doing stuff which genuinely is some of the best on the market for certain stuff. And you'll know that in my PR range, I've started using the A-type now because they finally came out with a really good 50-watt American voice speaker. So I love that thing. Anyway, I contacted Celestion sales chap about a week ago now and said, look, we're working on a new amplifier, a new project, and I would be keen to see what Celestion had to offer. We wanted a ceramic speaker, sorry, a 12-inch ceramic speaker, at least 35-watt power handling. More is better, or more could be better. And roughly in the 97 to 98, 99 dB range, okay? And they've sent me some samples, which you can see in front of me. So the first thing they've sent is the G1280 Classic Lead, which I don't think I've ever heard in person, which is really interesting. So keen to get this thing out of the box and tested to see what it actually sounds like. Second thing they sent me is the V-Type, which I have heard before. In fact, I've got a V-Type in my bench cab. But it's a really interesting speaker, and I'm sure there are some really cool uses for it. I know this one says made in China, but all future ones are going to be UK made. G12M65 Creamback, the absolute classic. Some of my customers have spec'd this speaker before in their builds, and every time I've heard it, I've gone, yeah, okay, that's pretty good actually. So interesting to hear that. The G1265, part of the Heritage series. I don't think they're going to be calling it the Heritage series anymore. I'm not sure how that differs, the G1265 from the G1280, but there must be a difference. We'd be keen to hear that. And of course, at the very bottom, as an outsider, they've sent me a Neo Creamback as well, which I have heard before. I really like, but you never know. You'll stick it in the mix when we audition all 5 of these, and you never know. It might be a winner. Okay, mystery box time. Okay, actually, it's not a mystery box because I know what's inside, but you don't. So for you, it's a mystery box, but for me, it's just another amplifier in for service. But anyway, let's pretend it's a mystery box for YouTube. Absolutely monstrous, this box. So it is 32 inches tall, which is about 96 barleycorns, by 25 by 22. Quite a big box. Quite a big box, isn't it? And what the story behind this amplifier is, customer has purchased it from ATB, and on its way to them, it's come to me just for a final checkup and once over, make sure it's all okay, because it's actually being shipped out to, I think it's Thailand or Hong Kong. I'm not exactly sure where it's going, but it is going quite a long distance, and the owner just wants me to give it one final check over, make sure it's all good and there's no issues, because as far as I understand, in that part of the world there aren't many super reliable and competent techs. I might be wrong about that, but that's what he's told me. And so he'd rather have me check this thing at this end, do a final once over on it before it gets shipped. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get this thing opened. It's very well packed, so shout out to David at ATB for doing such a good job. Now, if you haven't worked out what it is yet, I'm not going to tell you. But what I will say is that I have not had one of these I've not seen one of these in person for quite a long time. It's been, oh, it's definitely pre-COVID, the last time I saw one of these things. It'd be funny if it was a champ in such a big box, wouldn't it? One moment, please. Might be a clue. Okay, you haven't worked it out yet. It's an Ampeg B15. And here she is. I will get it up on the bench shortly, but as you know, these are called a flip-top design, which means the chassis itself sits within and is stored within the cabinet during transportation. And then when in use, it sits the other way around, like a flip-top. And here she is, the Ampeg B15. Now, this one is the N designation, not the NB, NC, ND, etc., etc. We think it's a 1963, but it could be a very early 64. Have to double check. But yes, so the Portaflex B15 flip top. So as I showed you earlier, the chassis itself lives upside down in the cabinet. And when you come to use it, you simply flip it over. Got some nice clasps to hold it in place. Oops, there you go. And yeah, roughly 25 to 30 watts, which is quite low for a bass amplifier, but they have a very unique sound, which I'm sure some of you know. And they are extremely popular in for studio work and for session work. So really, really cool amplifier. So what have we got? We've got 2 channels. Hello, you can see me. 2 inputs on channel 1 and a single input on channel 2. We'll look at the schematic to see how that works. Volume, treble, bass for channel 1. Volume, treble and bass for channel 2. We've got an on standby switch, we've got a ground switch, and our power switch at the end. Portaflex. Okay, 2 transformers. It looks like a boutique hi-fi, really, doesn't it? Anyway, big 15-inch speaker. I can't remember what speaker's in it. We'll have a look. But let's come around the back. So on the earlier models, they used what essentially are octal valve sockets, female from the head and a male version on the cabinet itself, and that's your speaker connection. That just connects in like so. I think on the later ones they went to a different setup. This one's got a 3-prong US plug on it, so obviously this is a US voltage amplifier, but it's had a 3-prong conversion, which of course is always a good thing. And on the rear we've got, there's our mains input, mains fuse, haven't got my glasses on so I can't read the value. But it says it should be a 3-amp fuse. We'll check that out. The valves behind this screen, behind this cage, we are screen printed on the chassis what they should be. So 5U4 rectifier, 2 6L6s, 3 6SL7s, which are octal preamp valves. We've got an 8-ohm external speaker and an external amp socket. Now, I can't remember what that's for. Does that inject into the power section? I have to double check. And we've got a hum balance control, which obviously will set. So let's get this cage off. Just undo these thumb screws. And let's have a look what we've got. Okay. So we've got Ampeg branded 6 SL7s. That one's not seated properly. 2 Ampeg branded 6L6s and an Ampeg branded 5U4. I wonder if that's the original valve set for this amplifier. Here's the filter can cap, multi-section of course. We've got 40, 40, 40, 40. Oh, she's a bit wobbly. We'll have to inspect that. But yeah, that's the chassis top side. What I think I'm going to do is, because of the speaker connection is like this, I'm tempted to not fire it up as it is. I'm going to remove the chassis from its base, get this thing upside down on the test bench, then at least I can make some secure connections inside on the test bench. What's going on with you? Because I don't want to risk damaging anything. I could look up the pin up for these and make up a connection, but because I rarely get these in, I don't want to make up a special test plug. Yeah, let's get this thing apart, have a look inside, and at least we can fire it up on the bench, see what she's doing. Quick look inside the speaker cabinet. We've got the original serial number sticker, so B15N, serial number 307114. The speaker is a Jensen C15N, and I think that's dated 1963 or 64. I'll have to look it all up. But there she is, blue label Jensen ceramic 15-inch speaker. Was having a good look online for the correct schematic for the Ampeg, and no need, because on the underside of the chassis plate board is the schematic, and this is what I love, because this is what manufacturers used to do. Any of those of you who work or worked in radio TV servicing will know this was a common thing, where inside the amplifier they would print off the schematic and have it there for you for ease of reference. It does make things easier because you just know that this is correct. All right, so it's the same schematic for both the B12N and the B15N. So the 12N, obviously a 12-inch speaker. So let's go through it quickly. 2 channels, one up here, and so this will be channel 1 with the 2 inputs, and this will be channel 2. Channel 1, both inputs have the same dropping resistor and a 1 meg to ground. So one, even though they're the same, one will be slightly higher because this one will have 1.12 meg to ground, both of those in series when you plug in here, but this one will just have the 1 meg to ground. So this one is slightly higher impedance. Into the grid, V1, 6SL7, the first half, which is an anode follower driving the tone stack. Into the second half, into your volume control, and then you've got into your mixer resistors for the 2 channels into the phase inverter. And if you look, here's where that external amp socket is. So you could plug the preamp of another amplifier in here directly into the phase inverter. Right. Second channel, pretty much the same. This is a very high impedance channel, 2.2 meg input impedance. Into grid 1, again, you've got an anode follower tone stack. Pretty much the same. It's voiced ever so slightly differently, I think. Oh no. Oh yeah, hang on. 1 meg treble pot there. Is that 4 meg treble there? Let's zoom you in. Just here, can you see? Is that 4 meg? I think it is. That's an odd pot value, isn't it? Where this channel's got the 1 meg. The bases are both 1 megs. We'll check that inside the amp, actually. Okay, phase inverter that looks to be a... Oh, it's not cathode style. We'll look up what that is. And then driving your 2 cathode biased 6L6s. There you go, that's a 250 ohm 10 watt resistor biasing those 2 output valves into your output transformer. And then an 8 ohm speaker, and here's your 8 pin socket. So you've got pins 3 and 7 tied together for your common. Your 8 ohm is pin 1. Now the standby switch, pin 8. Standby switch is the center tap of the high voltage. So that must be a ground connection then. Okay, all right. Isn't that interesting? Very cool. So this is what we're going to work on. Tells you our output transformer, sorry, our power transformer is a 750 volt center tap rated at 150 milliamps. So that would be 3750375 on our high voltage winding into our 5U4 rectifier. So it says here the filtering coming off the rectifier, we've got a 40 microfarad and a 40 microfarad. Then it says 20 and 20. But I saw that can cap was a 40, they had 40 microfarads there. So 20 there as well. We'll have to check all this stuff out. But anyway, that's the schematic for the Ampeg. And here we have inside the Ampeg B15N. So we've got our inputs at the top here. Volume, treble, bass. Volume, treble, bass for the second channel. Got our switches here. A centralized board with our components on. Got the not dual bulbs, but yeah, light up on-off bulbs, I guess. And your valve sockets along the back here. So first observation, do you remember we were talking a few weeks ago in the Q&A about chassis layout? Well, again, this one follows exactly the same principle. Your inputs for your instrument are physically as far away possible from your mains input. Okay. Right, this is the speaker socket, and there's definitely something weird going, so not speaker socket, speaker cable. Something weird going on here. So we're going to have to check that out. What else do we see? Do we see anything that's popped or burnt out or damaged? So let's go down. This one's got the Sangamo green capacitors in it. More on that shortly. 250 ohm cathode bias resistor for the output valves. Oh, look, a popped cap. Zoom you in. So this will be the bypass cap for the output valves. That's going to need swapping out. Sorry, these aren't the Sangamos. These are the Cornells, aren't they? The green Cornells. This is the Sangamo. The Sangamo Tiny Chief. Okay, now I want to show you something. I want to show you something really funny. This is a printout of an advert for Sangamo capacitors. Springfield, Illinois, September 1949. Okay, and this is the advert for their Pathfinder capacitors. Now, ignoring the light racism going on here, right? If you read adverts for any old capacitor brand, they rarely, if at all, talk about the sonic or tonal performance of their capacitors. They're always focusing on stability, reliability, that sort of thing. The service-proved molded paper capacitor. Introduced by Sangamo in '46 as the first tubular paper cap to be molded in a thermosetting plastic. Ooh, the Type 30 is thoroughly service-proved. Used extensively by television manufacturers, preferred by servicemen, the Type 30 offers these proven advantages, okay? Especially designed flexible leads that resist breakage and can't pull out. Reliability. No wax to run when heat is applied, so, you know, we're having a go at wax caps at that point. Element is never damaged in fabrication, i.e. less heat and pressure is used in moulding the thermosetting plastic case. Cool. This means greater dependability and no hot spots. Try these stable, rugged, long-lived paper tubulars. You'll like them. See your jobber. If he can't supply you, write to us. Okay? Dependable performance. Nowhere in that advert does it mention the sound. Okay? But, yeah, not sure about that. And there it is. A later version of the same Pathfinder cap is called the Tiny Chief. Often found in ampegs of this era. Okay, fired up on the bench. I had to do some ingenious Tesla cook-ups because of the way the speaker plug works. The standby switch switches on and off the sensor tap of the high voltage through this plug to this ground point here. So that's a bit to have to bypass that, but then also connect, because we haven't got speaker connected, connecting up to the common and the speaker to get an output. It's proving rather difficult, but I've worked it out, I've got it sorted. Going back to the phase inverter, apparently Ampeg call it an anode follower phase inverter style, quite unique to these amps. I need to do more reading on it because you rarely come across them, but it is interesting. Anyway, she is running on bench, and we're getting 13.6 volts RMS output into 8 ohms. So 13.5 is 22.8 watts. So yeah, pretty much there. The only thing is, no, that's fine. I'm not going to run it like this for too long because I need to swap out that cap. You can see one of the bulbs is gone, so we need to do that. A couple of other things that I've noticed is the nut on this transformer bolt is loose, so we need to tighten that up. And I think we need to go through it and give it a proper service and a sort out, because this thing needs to be good. But yeah, she's up and running, which is a good sign. Get her back on restriction mode so we don't punish her for too long. And we will come back to this next week. Almost gave myself a hernia lifting this thing up on the bench. It weighs an absolute ton. Ridiculous. Right, what have we got then? Bad Cat, Wildcat 40R. And I believe the R means that it's got reverb. Okay, so 2-channel amplifier, classic Bad Cat / matchless style amplifier. Really, really cool. Owned by a pro player. In fact, he's dropped some other things in as well, which I'll show you. But this one is in because it's not healthy at all, quite poorly. The complaint is that it keeps burning up its output valves, EL34s in this case. It can apparently run other types as well, but customer runs it with EL34s, and he's always had, for as long as he can remember, a very short valve life on this amplifier. Now he did admit that he has been running it recently with an aux box, and wondered if that is shortening the valve life even further. So wants me to go through it, see if we can find if there's an underlying issue with this amplifier that's causing it to burn up valve so quickly. Also give it a service, go through it, sort it all out. You know the score. But yeah, that's the Bad Cat Wildcat 40R. And here's its smaller brother. Also owned by the same customer. Clearly he likes this red vinyl Tolex, whatever you call it. The Cub 2 volume bass treble cut master, and a switch labelled Focused and Spectrum. Any idea? Anyway, this one is also not very well either. We just fire it up. You will quickly hear what the problem is. Yeah. So we need to work out what's going on with that. This one is an EL84 amplifier, so we've got that to diagnose as well. Also, he's asked me to look at this thing, a little Fender Bronco tweed amp, solid state as far as I remember, and it's missing the gain control. So yeah, we need to get this thing apart, have a look inside, because he does use this as a it's actually, he keeps it in his car, and if he ever needs a quick practice sample when he's out and about, or is writing and wants to quickly record something, he's got this. He just keeps it in the car ready to go, but it does need a bit of a service, bit of a clean up, bit of a sort out, but it's definitely got some flavour on it, hasn't it? Fender Bronco. And finally, the last thing, it's not an amplifier, but it is a faulty piece of equipment. It is the Van Amps Reverbomate Soulmate. There you go, you can see it. Here she is. So it's an effects unit, a reverb unit, and he's owned it from new, and it keeps breaking down, keeps going wrong. It originally had a reverb tank failure, so it's had a replacement fitted, which is now installed in this, and that one also has gone. So he's asked me to fit an old Accutronics unit that he's supplied, but he wants me to go through the unit and see if we can work out why the reverb tanks keep failing. He's not sure if it's a mechanical issue or an electrical problem, but clearly there's something not quite right with this. I'm not sure if they're rare or not. I've certainly not seen one before, but you shouldn't be going through reverb tanks on something like this, I would have thought. So he wants me to go through it, check it out. Should we quickly buzz the back off and have a look? Okay, screws removed. Let's have a look. So inside we've got obviously the reverb tank itself. We've got a board on the back side of the unit with the output socket, and then we've got all the controls. We've got a small board on the front here. Input and output, I guess. Yeah. So not much going on in there, but we need to find out why the tank has failed, and then see if we can work out what caused it. So, sorry, we need to work out what's wrong with the tank, then find out the cause. Yeah, that's that. Very cool. Well, that is all we've got time for. I know it was a bit of a longer video, but we've had so much to get through. September and October usually are very busy for me in terms of servicing and repairs. I get a lot of pro equipment back in after all the summer festivals and tours and shows, things like that, that all need turning around quickly and getting sorted all ready for the Christmas shows. So yeah, it's all picked up again. Just had the JCM 900 and the PV collected. That's gone out the door, and in the same breath the Ampeg arrived, the 2 bag cats, the little Fender, and that pedal, reverb pedal, arrived as well, and I've got more coming next week. So yeah, absolutely swamped. In terms of the builds, I am making progress. The 57 Tweeds are coming on well, the Ainsleys are coming on, the PR18 is coming along really well also. So yeah, we are getting there. As you can tell, extremely busy, which I'm always really grateful for. But if you are waiting on something, whether it's an amplifier build or a repair, please bear with me. I am a one-man operation, and I get the stuff out the door as soon as I can. So yeah, don't hate me. Anyway, so I am in next week, Monday to Thursday, but I'm off on holiday from Friday the 13th all the way through until, well, I'm back in on the Wednesday. I think it's the Wednesday the 23rd. Is it Wednesday 23rd? Whatever that Wednesday is. So a week and a smidge I'm off on holiday. So yeah, that's going to put me even further behind. But regular viewers of the channel will know I've worked flat out since my holiday back in February, which is, you know, over 6 months ago now. I haven't had a break. I haven't been ill. I've been in here 5-6 days a week. So I do deserve some time off. Yeah, wow. So, had a look at the numbers. We haven't done a YouTube update in a while. My channel, unfortunately, is no longer growing at this kind of rate. It's kind of tailed off a little bit. It's growing a little bit slower. The videos are kind of doing as they usually do. Subscriber numbers have kind of slowed off as well, although they are still increasing, which is a good thing. So you know what the rule is. Give this video a thumbs up. Put all your comments and questions down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and that's the real issue, I think, is that still roughly only 1/3 of you who tune in and watch my videos have actually pressed that subscribe button. So there's 2/3 of you who are not subscribers, and I'd really like you to come on board. If you want to join the channel, you are more than welcome to do so. We did discover something this week, actually, that the iOS app for iPad and iPhone doesn't have the join button on anywhere. So if you want to join the channel, you do need to do that through a desktop browser. So if you are wanting to join the channel but you haven't found a way, that's the way to do it. It's only $2.99 a month, and it really helps me out. People have asked about me doing Patreon, but no, I think I'd like to keep it all in YouTube. I don't want a separate thing going on as well. And that just leaves me to say thank you very much once again, and I will catch you all at the next one.